Well, good evening and welcome to the Monday Review Show again. We go out live every Monday night at this time, 8 p.m. Irish/UK time. We're on the same timeline. And this is the show where we deal with all things referees and refereeing. Yellow cards, red cards, given, some not given, even VAR as well. A lot of you are very, very exercised about VAR still. I personally think it's here to stay, but that's just my opinion. I see Keith is nodding there in approval as well. If you'd like to make any comments or ask a question, please do so. Down on the right-hand side of your screen there, you can make your comment and we'll certainly get around to it. But I'm delighted to be joined once again, as I am every Monday night, by my very good friend and colleague now from Sheffield in England, former Premier League referee, former FIFA referee, former head of the PGMOL, which stands for the Professional Games Match Officials Limited, and the man responsible for introducing goal line technology, which has been a huge, huge success. Keith Hackett, thanks again for joining, Keith.
A pleasure. The weeks pass very quickly, don't they?
My goodness, do they just... oh my goodness, I'm sure, like I have been getting so much questions, queries, about simulation.
Yeah.
And for people who don't understand or know what that means, it simply means, I'm going to call it, it's me, cheating, diving, doing anything to hoodwink the referee. And some instances, sadly, they are getting away with it. They shouldn't be. The referee should be doing their job. Keith, I'm sure you got lots of correspondence as well on that.
Absolutely. I think that it's a cancer in the game. I think it really is, first of all, very difficult for referees because I think, they've got one shot. Let's ignore VAR. Let's talk about the game in competitions that we see at grassroots level, right through to the senior level and the elite level of the game. And I think it's making life very difficult for referees. They've got one view and sometimes get that wrong because the players are so good at going to ground. Now, at the elite level, Premier League in this case, and the Football League as well, but in the Premier League, where we have VAR, where we have two referees and an assistant referee looking at the game, two of them can instantly get to replays and can look on more than one occasion at a particular incident from perhaps often a better viewing angle afforded the referee because he's got one angle, he's got one view to make a decision. And sadly, it's on the increase, in my opinion. I think that we're seeing players in what I consider to be good scoring positions getting in contact with the defender or the opponent, and rather than having a chance at a shot on goal, deciding to go to ground in an attempt to win a penalty kick.
Mm-hmm.
Now, the first thing that worries me here is that when we look at the replays, we can at home easily, but so can VAR in the Premier League. And I've seen a number of penalty kicks correctly turned down in recent weeks where the referee and the VAR have come to a decision, no penalty kick. Then why, in those instances where there is a clear act to deceive the referee, why isn't the referee applying the law of a sanction of a yellow card for an act of simulation? Because if they don't, this will grow and continue to grow. And, I'm watching now where very closely I've looked at a number of replays over the weekend. Not at games over the weekend, but games in recent weeks to get a trend. And what I'm seeing at times is an attacker facing upfield with his back to the defender looking to raise his arms, and the forward goes down, looking for a penalty kick, which is exaggerating, if you like, I think, holding, pulling, grappling, that's all going unpunished. And it's a mosaic of incidents where the referees have got to get tough. Now, if they're not going to do it, and we're talking about a referee, say, on the Football League or Championship, no VAR, he's got one chance of seeing it, then it's my belief that there should be this independent panel, 3 people made up of different stakeholders in the game, and they run through on a Monday morning at the professional level those acts that they have flagged up, if you like, as active areas of cheating by the players, and then have the power to sanction with a minimum of a 1-match ban. And I think the authorities have got a responsibility here to help the referees, because the players are getting so good at it, really so good at going to ground.
Now, I have to say, Keith, I have noticed a change whereby players are going down at the slightest touch, and the referees have, in the Premier League, have been saying, play on, play on. So somebody has spoken to them and said,
Yes,
don't give in to all of this little petty nonsense. And you can see the players then getting angry, punching the ground because they're not getting what they would have got. Maybe not at the beginning of this season, but certainly last season, they would have gotten a free kick. Now, so in fairness to the Premier League referees, they do seem to have recognized it, that there is this kind of blatant cheating, and that's what it is. You can call it anything you like, you can dress it up, you can be politically correct, but it's blatant cheating, and they're not giving into it. However, in other instances, when a player goes down holding his head, I mean, they have no choice. But I think the players are now cottoned on to the fact that they won't get a free kick, so they immediately go down and hold their head, which then gives the players an opportunity to go to the touchline to get additional coaching information or tactics or whatever. That needs to be stopped. They shouldn't be allowed to go to the touchline during an injury to a teammate or any other player. But they've become very good at that now, of holding the head, going down, stamping the ground, acting beyond belief to fool the referee that they have been injured. And what can the referee do? So his hands are tied behind his back there, really.
Yeah. There is another area that also concerned me this weekend, where Dan Burn of Newcastle United received a reckless challenge from an opponent. In fairness, they both went in at the same time, but I judged that the Sunderland player was certainly reckless. And Peter Banks, who had a really good game, he kept the game flowing. And as you have just explained, there were players going to ground, and he was actually almost saying, get up, or ignoring them and keeping the game flowing.
And that wouldn't be an easy game either, being a local.
No, and in fairness, I thought he managed it really well. Second game on the trot, where Peter Banks looked relaxed, particularly in this game, really relaxed and performing really well. But now comes a problem for him, because Dan Burn gets injured. And it is an injury. It's very clear that he's struggling, because the boots have made contact into his chest. Both are lying on the ground. They both slid on the ground. So it's not like the one that we're going to talk about in the Liverpool-Brighton game. But here was an incident then where the player, the Sunderland player, received a yellow card. Burns' treatment was extended, but then he had to go off, and he had to stay off for 30 seconds. And that's not right. I mean, I just think that's crazy. He's received an injury, not feigning it, and he has to go off, and the player who's committed the offence stays on the field of play. So again, another quirk in law that I'm raising, and hope that the IFAB will take a look, because it seemed morally unfair to the Newcastle player, who then, by the way, had to be later substituted because his injury was severe.
Let's just on that, add on a little bit. Now, you and I come up with various suggestions and thoughts on the laws of the game and how they could be changed for the betterment of the game, and not the silly things that the IFAB come up with every now and again. What about if a player is really bad challenge on a player and he goes down injured and has to go off for that 30 seconds or whatever? What about the player who committed the injury, if he had to go off as well?
Well, I think that seems the sensible way.
Because the one team is 11 players now, and in that 30 seconds, they have an advantage, albeit 30 seconds, and they could score in that because of
that. Absolutely. And of course, then you've got the frustration, because there's without question a view of unfairness. When you see a law, you think, well, I can understand why they've done it, but the reality is it looked unfair on Dan Burn and Newcastle United. Their players got to stay off for 30 seconds, whilst the other guy who's committed the offence has stayed on. So it's one of those things where I think they need to take a look. So I think, okay, we started the evening off the session in talking about acts of simulation and maybe an additional panel. I think something's got to be done with simulation, and the first line is that referees have got to toughen up. The first line is, if they believe it's an act of simulation, stop the game and bang the yellow card on the player, and then we might suddenly see a reduction in this cheating, which is damaging the image of the game.
Okay, so just to close off this little session, why do you think they're not doing it, Keith? Are they scared of the teams? Are they scared of the coaches? Are they scared of the press? Why do you think they're not doing it?
I think one of the pressures that we all put on referees in the modern game at the elite level, particularly in the Premier League, is, we're searching for perfection.
Yeah.
And when I was the boss of the PGMOL, I was demanding. Make no mistake, I wanted perfection. And maybe at times I was perhaps looking back and reflecting a little harsh. But, if you want to improve the standard of officiating, then the demand has to be high. And you then have to analyse very carefully. And sadly, in analysing the game closely, you then see, if you like, the technical errors that you and I pick up that the public, the spectators, do not. And I think that when we have such depth of knowledge on the laws of the game, we're also able to look at the game in a different way. We can actually say, well, here we are. Let's look at that Sunderland-Newcastle game, because in this game where I thought Peter Banks kept the game flowing, it was intense. I've refereed that match. It is a tough assignment. He kept the game going. Then there was a reckless challenge on the goalkeeper, and immediately about 5 or 6 players inside the penalty area come in and want to have their two penneth. Whilst he's sorting that out, there's suddenly then a flare-up near the technical area, almost near the halfway line, and that's boiling. He leaves the scene that he's calmed down in the goal area, and now he's got to deal with a flashpoint for some unknown reason in midfield. His demeanour was calm, and he finished up in that situation with his assistant coming on as per the mass confrontation criteria. finished up cautioning 3 players. And now here was, in my opinion, a brilliant piece of referee, because he then searched out the player who'd earlier committed the foul on the goalkeeper and yellow carded him. And, you know, often we're critical of referees, you know, because we're demanding and want them to be almost perfect.
Yeah.
But here, I thought Peter Banks handled the situation. And if any young referee can actually get the video of that, or the replay that's on Sky or wherever, look at it, look at his performance and say, you know, this is a guy who's set the bar high, recognizes that this is a tough assignment, recognizes where he needs to set the bar. He's not going to be too officious in those early stages. He set it fairly high. He took risks. The outcome was a very good game and a very good refereeing performance.
You're watching the Monday Review Show. This is where we talk all things referees and refereeing. And just to repeat once again, if you'd like to make a comment, please do so. There is a space there on your screen. Keith and I will be glad to, first of all, put it up on the screen and discuss it. And I'm joined as usual by Keith Hackett, former FIFA referee, former Premier League referee, and former head of the PGMOL. They're the guys who look after the referees in the Premier League and in the Championship. Keith, the Liverpool-Brighton game where there was a foot up by a Brighton player on a Liverpool player, I think it was Wirtz, whatever he likes to be called, and nothing was given. I mean, at the very minimum, it surely should have been dangerous play.
This was in every way, in every shape, this fulfilled the law on serious foul play. Mm. We had excessive force, the players coming in, the boot, yeah, absolutely. The boot is high, chest high, into his opponent.
It was up here, actually, yeah. It was
yeah. Oh, I mean, like it was horrendous. And, you know, referee Pawson had a really good, clear view of it. Now, you know, sometimes referees do lose concentration and their attention might be drawn somewhere else. I don't know. Or he might be looking at the next phase of play or where he needs to stand. I'm putting up some ideas, if you like, as to why he missed it. But then we look at VAR. This is a red card offence all day, every day. And Diego Gomez got away with it. I mean, this is a type of challenge that has to be penalised. You know, I'm getting slightly concerned because surely somebody should be saying to these referees, when the boot aimed at an opponent is higher than waist high, let's say. I mean, we know it can be lower and dangerous, but let's just put a marker and say, look, if it's above waist, then it clearly is dangerous. Now, for me, I don't need to look for malice because in that action by that player, he could have had any chance to pull out, to stop, to do whatever. He didn't.
We were always told that dangerous play, because that can also include a goalkeeper putting his head down, a player putting his head down, which is also dangerous play to himself. Yeah. So we were always told waist high, around the waist. If the foot's higher than the waist, that's dangerous play. If the head is below or near the waist, that's also dangerous play. But in this instance, it was nearly up under his chin. But you picked up another one, Keith. You picked up another one in the Arsenal-Wolves game.
Yeah, right. So this is not an easy decision. So we have a player, and we've seen this in recent weeks, and I keep commenting about it because it's worrying me. Here is a player who comes in with excessive force, 1 foot leading, and crashes into the lower foot boot area of the player. The player obviously goes down, and I'm hearing like, well, that's okay because he's made an attempt to play the ball. But the law says he's endangered the safety of an opponent. I heard the arguments today on television. Both Dermot Gallagher, former Premier League referee, someone I admire, and Jay Bothroyd, a former player, again, a very good player, both accepting that was an okay decision. We've got a scenario here where in the Premier League, this type of challenge, albeit low down, ankle area, they seem to be accepting that that's within the law. And that really concerns me. And that's why I raised this particular challenge. Because for me, I think it endangers the safety of an opponent. It's excessive force, one leg leading. And I'm saying you can't give a yellow card for that in law. It should be a red. So, I'm quite clear.
Yeah. Now, what's happening all the time, more than I think in the past, foul throws. Either the players don't know how to take a proper throw in, or they're doing it deliberately, be it twisting and turning as they're throwing the ball, one hand behind the ball, foot up behind, and the referees are not picking it up, and neither are the assistants.
No.
What's going on?
I don't know. There was one occasion last week when I nearly fell off the chair watching the match. Because in fairness, Anthony Taylor, having informed a player where the area is he wants the throw-in taken, liberal, not on the spot, on the sixpence or whatever.
Because they are using those additional balls to gain yards.
Of course they are.
They'll pick up the ball. The ball's gone 10 yards out of play down the line, but they'll pick the nearest ball and take the throw in from there.
Yeah, and that's exactly.
I don't blame them. They want to do that.
Yeah, and that is why Anthony Taylor, in fairness to him, asked him to go back to where the ball had gone out of play. And of course, the player completely ignores him, goes down the line, throws it in 10, 15 yards down the line. And Anthony Taylor awarded a throw-in to the opposition, which, of course, is law. The one-handed throw, because it's suddenly in fashion, look, you and I, we're all in the tooth. We've had years of watching the game and detecting and looking face on at the player and seeing where his hands come. And often we know one's in front of the other. And we know when the spinning is taking place. And maybe this program gives us the opportunity to say to young referees, look, make certain the position of where the throw-in's got to be taken is managed more effectively. Get in early. Don't start trying to do it at the 89th minute. And look out for the one-handed throw. And be suspicious when that first throw, if you've not spotted it and you're not looking and it lands in the penalty area from the touchline, these are rarities. You need to start looking at the player. Has he got that level of strength? And that, exactly as you say, is he spinning it or is he one-handed throwing? And you need to detect them. Small point, but important one.
Indeed, and sometimes both feet are not on the ground. Part of both feet are not on the ground when the ball is being released.
Correct.
And I've seen it that the hind foot, if you like, is at least 1 foot off the ground as the ball is being delivered. Now, the referee should pick that up on his diagonal, and the assistant should pick it up in his half of the field of play, and neither are doing it.
No,
and I've seen it happen. Actually, I saw it happen 2 or 3 times in one game. 3 foul throws that went unpunished. And as you rightly say, Anthony Taylor, is the only one that has picked it up and applied the law by giving the throw in to the opposition.
Yeah. But again, just to reiterate, because sometimes people get confused when part of the foot is in the field of play. Now that is permissible, providing the heel remains on the touchline, in contact with the touchline throughout the throw. And that's why I think it's important that you and I, or the assistant, is looking at the feet, and you as the referee are looking at the hands. That's my instruction to referees. I used to say, look, you monitor the feet, and I'll monitor the hands on your diagonal, as you rightly said.
Yeah. And of course, that's sadly it's not happening. I don't know why they're being allowed to get away with it. I'm noticing also, Keith, and the law clearly states, players equipment, I think, they are not allowed to wear any form of jewelry. And it does state any form of jewelry, even
Correct.
wedding rings.
Yep.
And I see now they're being taped up. That's still against the law.
Correct.
And clearly states, if I can't get it off, well, then you don't play.
Correct.
Simple as that. And yet
Absolutely.
It's happening. It seems to be creeping back in again.
Yep.
Taping up the rings, and the referees are, well, why isn't that picked up, Keith, before the game starts?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, and that's why the fourth official, when substitutes are coming on, does a cursory check as well to make certain that's the case. One final point I want to bring in, and that's Norwich City Southampton. Norwich City's goal was scored by the player using his left hand. It was a very clear handball offence. The referee and the assistant referee had no chance of seeing it. And that's the reality. I'm sure when they looked at the video yesterday, they'd be a bit beside themselves. But in reality, there are times as a referee, we've not got that viewing angle. And therefore, I think it's interesting that suddenly there were calls for VAR in the Championship because a handball was scored. Well, a goal was scored with the deliberate use of the hand that should have been chalked off.
Brendan, who's a regular contributor to this show, he's put up on throw-ins, just get the ball in play. In my opinion, you don't need two refs looking at a player standing off the field. I informed the ARs to watch the throw. I watched the drop zone. Unless it's a long attacking throw into the penalty area, no one really cares about throws.
Well, Brendan, what I hear your point. The reality is, as a referee, we operate with 17 laws of the game, and we are expected to apply them. And what we're talking about here is another form of cheating. Players gaining yards down the touchline is the first, if you like, aspect of cheating.
Yeah.
And then the method of throwing the ball, if it's not in line with the laws of the game, and I understand what you're saying, but if it's not in line with the laws of the game, then it's an offence. And as you know, this is like, okay, it's like the policeman on traffic duty. You know, if he's in the van and he's using a camera, you do 31, you're done in a 30-mile zone. And he probably thinks, well, when I'm a policeman, I'm on the pavement and not sat in the van with the speed cameras at 31, 32, I might go, well, okay, let that one go. I'm off to get a sandwich. How liberal do you want to be as a referee? That's the point.
I must tell you a good one. A long time ago, my goodness, the time has caught up on us. There was a guy who was doing 32 in a 30-mile zone, and he got a ticket. And he said, "No, this is ridiculous. I'm going to court, as is your right." So he went to court to appeal it, And he said, but Judge, I was only doing 32 and a 30. And the judge says, he says, I was only 2 over. And the judge says, well, why weren't you 2 under? Guilty.
Yeah.
Oh, thanks once again, Keith. Time has
Pleasure.
gone up. Many, many thanks. We'll do it all again next week. Just a quick thank you to my very good friend, Don Harris, who was very helpful getting my show up and running, and boosters and all that, because the reception wasn't terribly great in the past. So thanks very much, Don, for that.
Yeah.
But especially thanks to you, Keith, for joining me once again. And thanks to you out there for watching, and for those of you who've contributed to the show. We'll do it all again next week. Until then, thank you very much and goodbye.
Goodbye.